supposed to know that, because this is an impromptu matter. It's a which needs to be dealt immediately, and we have every right to come to the police administration at any time, seek his office. But for us to get to the reception and for the reception to call his GP, who was clearly evading our document.
National organizer of the MPP, Nana Boakye, as you know, his man is putting this petition.
We were asked to leave our telephone. We have returned from the
ID. That is the department directly responsible for, if it has to do with criminal issues.
That the IGP, is supposed to do. That is why we are surprised that to his junior officer, he, being the head of the police institution, then which would have caused his work. So it is. I think that those comments that Bryan Acheampong made, to then make such comments, for me, is mind-boggling. Not only mind-boggling, but then as good citizens, I don't think that we should allow this to go without bringing it to our attention.
Expect to happen now.
Our petition is very clear. It's as simple as that. We expect the police administration to first view the video and prosecute Bryan Acheampong. Don't forget that the police administration itself arrested. He's currently before court and has been attending court. I think that the police administration itself has drawn a line, is the offender, and that's why we are before the institutions. We have copied it to us. Yes. And so these are stakeholders in our society.
Stay with me. The Peace Council, they've been speaking today. I'll tell you what they've been saying. The petition now is with the police. Support this move.
Well, I think we have made it clear. Yesterday I spoke to your colleague on Joy FM, and I said that the New Patriotic Party, we fully endorse the foundation. He made those statements on they were going to ride on that. Going to lose. He didn't say that whether NDC loses or they win, everybody is trying to equalize by bringing in the young man who said that they were good, and that cannot be equated to this particular problem. Is that if the CID obviously will process platform that the MP for the arrest, investigation, and prosecution of the former president and the stability and peace, saying that the NDC was born out of a revolution, is going to be boot for boot, and then also do or die affair. The national chairman, investigation and prosecution. What we have also said is that to win the elections, even if we have time from now, and we are calling for the arrest of these two persons, former President Mahama, also prosecute them for some of these comments they made.
I mean,
yes.
I question the timing of this. Why now?
Criminal offenses are not time bound. I mean, you can be called upon to answer for any criminal conduct. And if once we find the peace and stability we have, the person in question can be called. We have also, let me repeat, we have also finalized the petition, and we are forwarding it to the police for former President Mahama to be arrested, investigated, and then for his investigation and also prosecution.
This is much ado about nothing. You rightly indicated. Then you will now wake up from your slumber and say similar comments have been made. Was when the youth organizers will not be tolerated. But you see, Bryan, no. If it were anybody in the MPP, probably we could say yes. But the deployment of the hoodlums who maimed people at Ayawaso West Wogan, even a similar thing happened in the Tichima South. So much focus and attention on him.
Let me ask you, Malaba, you're a lawyer. So this petition you filed, what's the crime? What
done on our youth organizer, which is breaching the peace. There's a section in our Criminal Offences Act that could be used.
It was also to get the Peace Council to respond. We've been speaking to the Peace Councils. You have to take these comments in the context of the fact that elections are really won at the polling stations and not by what people actually say. Listen to his answer when the question was posed to him.
Elections are won at the polling station. You can't do anything about it. And therefore, parties ought to be, the results are declared, that's it. Nobody can change the results at the end. We should be able to discern that sometimes it's not just what you say, but the reality on the ground. We've seen, you don't just take just a statement that has been made by...
For instance, Bryan Acheampong, there's been calls from all angles.
Well, the Peace Council normally wouldn't get into those things. They have to do that. So in those areas, we don't normally want to get into that kind of discussion.
Mr. Maliba, fair point there by the Peace Council boss.
They fell into civil war. It was because of such irresponsible comments. There are a plethora of this chair of the council coming from that we should just gloss over it because elections are counted. He's not worried about that.
Well,
he needs to take some lessons.
It says there are missed comments such as Bryan Acheampong made that they will win the elections, they will not hand over power. You should not, don't be too...
Ghanaians would feed into Bryan Acheampong's thinking. And at the polling station, it always says that we shall never hand over to the NDC, but a Minister of State.
It is a criminal comment that has been made, or the comments that have been made borders on criminality. Then it's a job of the police.
He seems not to understand the institution he's heading. For God's sake, let him know that to quench the fire. He is supposed to know that his institution has to aim and deal with it. I thought I heard him say that they were going to call all the political parties.
Yeah, it says
to them and diffuse the temperatures. This is not of bringing civil unrest.
So, Mr. Maba, you filed the petition today. I'm pretty sure it will be reasonable to hear back from the police.
I think we are not going to tell the police will be applied here. We shall give the police ample time to deal, make a follow-up, find out from the CID boss why nothing is being done. That have the potential of inflaming passions will not be tolerated. So we'll make a follow-up within a reasonable time.
Thank you very much. Once more to drum home the point.
That's what Peace Council said. A little bit shows about that. See, including the current one, that we think to all political actors, please abide by the code and the conduct that we have all agreed to. We'll be bringing together again to make sure that people don't just go out and say anything that will disrupt the peace of the country.
Battle the long queue to finally pay, only to be told. Now on Vodafone Cash, you can pay all networks. So whether you are buying provisions or fuel, medication or food, whatever the service or need, just pay conveniently from Vodafone.
Wouldn't you prefer an apartment hotel? One that offers the utmost convenience of a boutique hotel, while for short and long-term rental at competitive rates. Our Sky Swimming Pool Gourmet Park Residences, located at Shiashi, Tetekwashi, 1043-43009, or visit our website at Oasis.
Spirit of getting things done.
Tonight, more push for support for
the challenges come from external factors, the surge in energy prices and food prices as a consequence of
We have live updates from Washington, D.C. from the IMF World Bank spring meetings as Ghana's team meets with Paris Club creditors to establish a partial
inequality. That means fragility for countries, and we see more countries falling into poorest around the world.
Also tonight, individual bondholders petition President Akufo-Addo.
And also later, if you're a health worker thinking about seeking greener pastures in the UK, rethink your plans as a British
source, nurses and midwives, before we think.
And then later in the bulletin, as part of our Joy News Tracker series, we are in the Wassa and Menfi West municipality.
But for the drones, everything is there and it is very convenient.
And in Business International, we have details from the ongoing
13 over alleged false publication involving founder of Electrochem.
And then later we have the Champions League for you live here. Mensah.
I am Emefa. Apawu. Do join us with your thoughts and comments. It's 055 1111 997. And we start off tonight's edition of Newsing is getting ready to make a final push for debt cancellation and securing a final $3 billion IMF.
Creditors of establishment of a partial creditor committee to negotiate, indeed agree to restructure or forgive our debt. Speaking ahead of the IMF and what wealthier countries needed to make it easier for vulnerable ones to restructure their debt to help minimize.
1 week after WHO announced done so much for so many on behalf of countries that find themselves crushed by the burden of our audience, we are not letting our guard down on this issue. Editors, traditional, new, public, and find solutions to what otherwise
countries, including Ghana. Here's the president of the World Bank, David Malpass.
And a worry that they're in a phase of decapitalization rather than recap. People with lower incomes level. That's not happening right now. It's actually a diving into fragility. High prices are being applied. If they don't get fertilizer often, they won't plant for the crop cycle.
Monetary objectives. Appropriately designed fiscal consolidations in Chapter 3 of our World Economic Outlook. While fiscal policy is turning less expanding financial fragilities, don't morph into a full-blown financial net, including the IMF should be allowed to adjust as much as possible, unless doing so raises financial stability in medium-term growth forecasts. 5-year ahead growth projections decline slows as countries converge. But some of the more recent slowdown may also reflect the rising and increasingly real threat of geoeconomy across fragmented blocks. Fragmented world we must avoid that path at all costs.
What about the sub-region where
Sub-Saharan Africa, and then I will ask Daniel to come in on Nigeria and South Africa more specifically. So very are in the region. A lot of the challenges come from external factors. The surge is affecting the region. So we have a slowing growth for the region overall. To inflation is elevated. It's double-digit inflation expected to come down from cities as a result of this elevated food prices we have
right now, and all being discussed at the spring meetings, but Ghana in particular. Last time I checked, that meeting possibly was underway. George Yafe is in petitions of our finance minister and his team.
Well, Evans, I still sure will be the outcome of this meeting, will be the announcement of what is being described in terms of reaching some agreement on what form the debt restructuring should be. Partial creditors committee that should be able to open the governmental organization primarily made up of some developing countries and Africa and emerging. I comment during the Q&A. He didn't mention anybody's name, but it was clear concern is that what should be the structure going forward when other countries are coming together. China appears not to come on board to be part of this whole arrangement. Rather, will be crafted in terms of going forward. But Evans, don't forget that what the IMF board could drag, the finalization could take a while. But if today Ghana is able to get enough to go to the IMF staff and to go to the board with that agreement.
This meeting with Ghana, between us and the Paris Club, may also have the Chinese sitting in it as well. Is it
Paris Club, which is a virtual meeting actually, Evans? It is not because you are bringing all these creditors together. It's not against participating in Ghana's restructuring program. Saying that they want a country to participate in Ghana's financing program. Two things, Evans, to advance to other sectors of the economy in terms of the quick turnaround, or you commit. What are you going to use these funds for? And that is where there was something spread over 5 years. Now, if UK government is cancelling Ghana's debt, if we are cancelling those debts, bring us a document, show us how you're going to use those savings transformation.
Joe, thank you very much. Professor Bokwing is a professor of finance, economist. So, should we raise our hopes and expectations that at the end of this spring meeting, maybe even before that, we may have secured...
Good evening, Evans. Good evening to our service listeners. Yeah, so, it has been suggested in our supported program, and the reason this week is critical, the country representatives, the finance ministers, and the central bank governors would all go and be begging or calling others to beg on your behalf. But what is a bit concerning for me is that it has taken us more than, and the reason it's coming to us as a surprise is that we should have known this long ago. And I am sure the West activities in Africa and other countries is quite different China to play along. Don't forget that China wants to be recognized as controls and direct how your affairs are managed. And I agree. They want to have a say in how those fiscal savings, other countries interfere, has come to stay as a new way of colonization, obedience. We've seen that also with the West in the time past. Okay, so I'm thinking that vulnerable countries like Ghana, Zambia, and others will suffer when too big fail to see what was happening or was going to happen. Growth is going to decelerate globally and across Sub-Saharan Africa. But in that same forecast, using energy prices, food crisis, and all of that, Ghana could not cry the same way like other countries. What this should tell us and teach us is that with the new Ghana, begin to manage our affairs prudently and efficiently, because it's hard.
Let me ask you very briefly, Prof. So with everything happening with the spring meetings, when is now?
Okay, so now that we are told that there's a partial, so they relieve the terms and the legal processes it has to go through and all of that, April of May, okay, thereabout for us to get, they will sit down and work out the details and all of that. Remember in the case of EPIC, okay, EPIC toilet and all those, how it has to be invested and all of that. So there are a lot of things that has to be ironed out. So remember the way the domestic debt exchange happened, because government essentially treated domestic creditors with contempt. Right?
The domestic creditors, the bond holders, and tonight as we speak, individual bondholders have petition of trust, the convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum. This petition is a joint petition between yourselves and which other individual bondholder group?
Individual Bondholders Forum, as well as the IBAG group.
And you say that due course?
Due course, I mean, this matter has to do with the livelihoods of people. People depend on these social obligations like education, health, and all. We can't be insensitive and finance, and the minister in particular. Everybody depends. We can discuss it, we can negotiate it, but with that, people can plan. We actually last asked for a meeting. We've not even did things like that. What does the president mean when he says fellow Ghanaians? Are we really fellows when these things happen? I don't think so. Very heartbreaking. And we are just expecting that His Excellency the President, whose word has been obligations will be honored, should be duly respected. It's 13th or so of March. On the 13th, payments were not made. It came after. But the Ghana fixed income market regulations, as expected of even, we weren't privileged with that. But we went back to them and told them, please, let's not do this. If you're going to have, our country is only one. Some of us, we don't have anywhere going. We don't have our children Americans or our parents, so we can cooperate, Georgia, and put a structure in place. But the government has raised treasury bills a lot. And this bill for individual bondholders, it's a breach of trust. It's a breach of the core. His Excellency the President intended this for his own people.
Yeah,
I don't think it is that we tell people I'll continue to default and default and default. We don't do that. How are people going to pay their school fees? Can they go and default and they have this wicked to people?
Yeah,
and I don't think that that's intended. So I want to believe that people are too busy that will do that which is honorable. That is not going to be a president who wants to speak poetry and act prose. But we are partners, and the cooperation that we have actually extended to the Ministry of Finance and manage their lives, and more importantly, self-sustain and give them the dignity.
On $1 billion. However, they had given exemptions to the pension fund.
So the fact is that anybody who didn't subscribe was exempted. And those were the words of the finance minister. The pension funds. You should remember that the pension funds, it was you being ineligible or eligible. And if you don't participate, it means you're self-exempted, also getting their monies. But we are aware that the ministry is negotiating with the pension funds. I just hope they can come to some resolution. But as we speak in our petition, are deposits only for the individuals. And whilst pension funds, anytime there are contributions, the cash contributions can actually go in and service any drawdowns on those from any pension fund, or the constraints or the things people are allowed, the pension funds are allowed to invest in. They are more likely to go back into government instruments at a rate that works for you. I think that is brilliant. And this actually brings the fraction that are standing to very, very...
Individual pensioner bondholders have indicated that if by the 21st of April, they do not contemplating joining that protest or embarking on your own?
We are in support of engagement ahead of that period. But if that doesn't happen, then means that we would have to actually take on other social tensions and do that which we would have to do anyway. When even in this case, the minimum should be people who are also credited to have a conversation. But the people we are seeing in our own country with, we can't even extend a big... Sometimes, I don't know how our people think. But I believe that the president, when he takes the stage every time and calls everybody fellow Ghanaians, he truly means it. And not that he actually means
to the President of the Republic to intervene and ensure the payment of these coupons and interest that are still outstanding. 20th of February, that has still not been paid. We keep a close eye on this and bring you updates for many of you who are. And Bev is here. With more from the spring meetings, I guess.
Yes, of course. And Alliance Live. In our headlines tonight, International Monetary Fund lowers Ghana's growth rate in Washington, D.C. And Managing Director of Ghana Stock Exchange, a bit of Bears, Heavily Broom. We'll take a look at the details now. And the IMF is projected by the government of Ghana in the 2023 budget. George Riafe has the rest of the story.
On the sidelines of the ongoing in the global economy, and how that will impact negatively on Ghana for this year. Now, this projection by the IMF presented by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, the development might show that the IMF 22, the projection is similar to the World Bank, as captured in 93. If the IMF's projection is anything to go by, then there could be implications for government in terms of its economic...
That was a Business Desk report put together by George Riafe. Following a completion of the domestic debt exchange program, she's hopeful a successful deal with...
The fact that we are declaring today that the market is open, that companies should talk to the IMF, listen to well-run companies, optimistic that companies will take advantage of this opportunity.
So of the Ghana Stock Exchange, Abena Amwa. Moving on, as the capital markets be the IMF lingers. According to the president of the Ghana Securities Industry, he told Joy Business that the postponement of the deadline for the
was trading at a certain volume pre this program, and it hasn't gotten the funds that people are getting. So there's a lot of uncertainty. Currently, I think our biggest concern is how is it for us to see the way forward. So these are some of the key things that concerns our members. And remember that once expenses and costs have actually been rising, so most of the people will be living on, will be booking losses for a longer period of time.
Now, before Sharif Gali disclosed that most SMEs want to be tax compliant, but to make it easier for startups and SMEs to do business. Welcome to the new world of business. Ghana Pay and Alliance Live. Emefa.
To your baby's heartbeat at the doctor's office. Or an arranged virtual meeting with that big client.
Buy airtime ahead of time with the process. Or simply dial *170 *311# for a superb airtime purchase experience. You are feeling. So, what are we doing today?
MTN.
By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right
on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bed. Mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home for SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall Airport. Our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Okay, good. Yeah. So you possibly would have, if you had followed that dream.
Gone to UK. The real reason behind this particular decision taken by the United Kingdom.
Yes, so Emefa, in the release on the National Health Service website, the UK government explained that the listed countries have a universal health service coverage index that is lower than 50 and the density of doctors, nurses and midwives that is below the global median, 48.6 per 10,000 population. Basically saying you do not have enough health personnel, but you are spotting the few that you have, and we don't want that to happen.
So it appears as a government-to-government decision. I don't know, but can individuals apply despite the seeming ban?
Well, we are told that health and social care organizations in England do not actively recruit from countries the World Health Organization recognizes as having the most pressing health and care workforce-related challenges unless there is government-to-government agreement to support managed recruitment services. The list, however, does not prevent individual health and social care personnel from independently applying to health and social care employers for employment in the UK of their own accord and without being targeted by a third party such as a recruitment agency or an employer. So essentially, individuals can apply, but not through a recruitment agency or a third party. These are bad.
Okay, yeah. So the other countries on the list, it's not just Ghana?
Yet, some of the countries placed on the red list of no active recruitment under the code are Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Gabon, the Gambia, Liberia, Malawi, Mali, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, and more.
Okay, thank you very much. That's my colleague Maxwell Agbagba with all the details. Let's get some answers and reactions to this.
Let's speak to the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. The General Secretary of the association is David Tinkran and joins us on the line right now. Mr. Tinkran, thank you for your time. Your news night.
Thank you for having me. Good evening to you and your studio.
If I recall correctly, in December 2022, in an interview, you said averagely between 400 to 500 nurses leave the country every month, and that you say they migrate to the UK, Ireland, Wales, Canada, US, and Australia. You said, quote, if we don't put in place measures to keep them in Ghana, then we can lose all of them, and that's a problem for us, end quote. How is the Ghana Registered Midwives and Nurses Association receiving this news now from the UK? Problem solved?
Yeah, good evening once again to your listeners. Question specifically. This directive is much ado about nothing, as far as I'm concerned. On the 63rd World Health Assembly that was held on the 21st of May 2010, the WHO came out with global code of practice on the international recruitment of health personnel. And UK and most of these countries have virtually ignored that thing. What I know is that maybe the ongoing conversation where UK were trying to sign a deal with the government of Ghana to recruit nurses and midwives and other healthcare workers is what might be affected by this directive. But as your reporter told you, it doesn't stop individuals from applying directly to health centers, if you like, hospitals in UK to go and work. And currently that's what is ongoing. And so it doesn't solve any problem as far as I'm concerned.
What might solve the problem?
What might solve the problem is very simple. I have made it clear to the government that they need to look at ways and means that they can intentionally they can be intentional about retaining the people, providing better condition of service in Ghana. You and I know that we cannot pay commensurate salaries as being paid out there. It will not happen. We know it. But the push factors are so much. The salary levels, the condition of service in which nurses and midwives work in this country and doctors is appalling. And if we don't do anything about it, it's going to be worse. So we met government some time ago, met the minister, we have met even the president, and we outlined certain policies that were put in place by President Kufuor in 2002 thereabouts. This is not the first time we are encountering such attrition or exodus of nurses and midwives. All right, but I mean they have not paid any heed to it, and that is where we find ourselves in this quagmire, and they will continue to leave. And let me take this opportunity to appeal to the sector minister, the Minister for Health, to remove the ban on clearance form. It falls flat in the law, and it is a fundamental infringement on the rights of nurses and midwives and other health workers in this country. We cannot stop anybody from traveling. If they want people to remain in this country, they should improve their service conditions, and they will remain.
Thank you very much, Dr. David Thinkrine. He heads the Registered Nurses and Midwives Association.
And that is an appeal that we can put to the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Health, Isaac Ofeba. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we'll talk about what happens to our plans between the Health Minister that we mentioned in December. But first, quickly, maybe you can give a response to David Thinkrine on the ban on clearance forms. What really is the status of it?
Yeah. Good evening, and good evening to your terrorist listeners. What I can say is that currently at the ministry, we are releasing clearance. A number of clearance are being released. But then releasing the clearance should be guided with a number of terms and conditions. And so when at a point the ministry is facing challenges with regards to the number you are releasing out, it's like you have problem with your people, your workforce, and you are the same person releasing them out. Some have not even finished their bond. Some had even left already before they wanted the bond to be signed. And before you want the bond to be signed, you are already not in the country. So those are the irregularities that compel the Honorable Minister to say that, hey, let's wait. Let's put all those things together. Those things have been sorted out. The consultation went far, and so currently the Director HR is signing off some of this clearance for those that are qualified to go. And so on that, this is what is going on.
Okay. Well, also on the substantive issue, the Health Minister, we know in December, reviewed that there will soon be some bilateral agreements between the government of Ghana and the British government to send trained Ghanaian nurses to the UK in exchange for financial considerations. With what we are hearing from the UK with this revised code, what now happens to that plan?
Yes. And what we are hearing now is an issue that has been taken care of. The ministry had gotten the information, and the ministry also appealed to WHO to have a review, because one, we are in talks with UK government, so we have a bilateral agreement. This in a way is going to regulate the migration of our nurses in this country. These are nurses that you can't stop them from going on their own. But when we put a proper measures like the bilateral agreement, that the nurse is confident that I'm going on to get an knowledge impact, and I come back to serve my country. And they have the opportunity to go, and they have the opportunity to come back and work in Ghana. It's going to solve the issue of nurses living without the knowledge of the ministry or without the knowledge of the health sector. And so that bilateral agreement is ongoing. They are still discussing it. And when it is done, it will come to the public for everybody to see. But regarding to this red alert that came about, as I speak to you now, we are still recruiting. Last week, we went ahead and recruited a number of nurses. We are recruiting some of them. We recruited a number of medical doctors. All these were done with the collaboration of the Nursing and Midwifery Council, the Medical and Dental Council. We put our heads together to manage the health workforce. And so we are...
Well, correct me. I want to understand, just for further clarification, Mr. Ofema, you're saying in spite of this particular red listing, you are still recruiting for the UK or for where?
No, for Ghana.
Okay.
We write for clearance from the Ministry of Finance, and once we receive the clearance, we are able to recruit them and post them to their various workplaces in this country. I'm not talking about recruitment to the UK. I'm talking about recruitment in Ghana. Once this recruitment is done, it means that it's going to increase our workforce base that they are talking about. That we are.
But are you looking at their conditions of service as well?
Yes, the issue of condition of service has to do with the policies and management that governs it. And that one, I will not be in the position to talk about it now, but at the right time, we will meet them, and then they themselves, and then the Honorable Minister or government will come out with a statement to look at a holistic way of addressing their remunerations, because it's an issue that has been there since. This migration has been there since that nurses move without the knowledge. Sometimes they even abandon their post. They go before they come back and say that I want my careers to go and practice there.
Okay, we'll leave it here. Mr. Ofe, we're indeed grateful for your time. He speaks for the Ministry of Health. I don't know what you did during the Easter holiday. I'm curious to know, but most of us spent it at the Weija Leprosarium for the Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen. You want to tell us what you did?
I was traveling.
Okay.
So I arrived in and I just rested, I guess.
Okay.
But the youngest resident at the Weija Leprosarium has a harrowing tale of being abandoned and rejected by her own family upon discovering her leprosy diagnosis. The founder and the director of the Lepers Aid Committee, Father Andrew Campbell, recounted the rescue of the girl from a family member who intended to use her for rituals. Father Campbell shared this heart-wrenching story at the recent Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen event, and my colleague Michael Ashali was in attendance and filed this report.
This is the Weija Leprosarium, and this year, Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen is here.
We've used it in news, we've covered stories, but I have never personally been here, and so I'm excited.
Look, I would cherish it all. The way they've been stigmatized over the years is awful. For this little girl, we sent a team up to Wa to distribute food. And in their distribution of food, they found this little girl. She was abandoned. The family have abandoned her. The mother ran away. The grandfather said she's not human because she's leprosy, and he wanted to do rituals. So they just abandoned her. We took her here. And we've had to bring her to so many doctors since she came here. One being a psychiatrist, because she wouldn't talk. She just talks a little. She's learning how to talk. But she was so traumatized. There's stigmatization and marginalization. I mean, one CD a day, it's not enough.
Some of the residents also shared their talents with the crowd.
If you know me, I know you. You know me, I know you.
For Joy News, Michael Ashali.
Very interesting. You were there, and so for those who helped us, we say a big thank you for putting a smile on the faces of these young ones, but also the many who still find themselves at the Leprosarium.
And it's time for Champions League action. It's the game we're all looking forward to. Manchester City, Bayern Munich, and the team led by Gary L. Smith here in the studio. Hi, Gary.
Hi. Evans.
Rwanda
Blue side. Rwanda what?
That's a good one.
Charlie. So I've not seen you since you retired, man. Like Rwanda Boga, how is it?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I mean, I'm supporting.
So Rwanda Abroche. So just
it's Abroche.
You know, there's a story of a church, right?
Yeah.
They said it's something international, and he asked him, "What? Why is the other brand?" He says, "It's when you pass Aflawo, it's in Togo. It's in Togo. He said, it's Abroche.
Where's Abroche? Togo is Abroche.
Really?
Yes.
You know, next Ghana month or something, we need to look into that. Like, what exactly is Abroche?
Abroche, yeah.
Like, is it like when you pass the Mediterranean or
you cross a river?
Yes, Danny Cranton is here as well. Danny, what is Abroche?
Anywhere outside Ghana.
Are you serious?
Yes.
So Cote d'Ivoire is Abroche.
It's Abroche.
Timuko Abroche.
Okay, Abroche, yeah.
Listeners, 055-111-1997. Like, I don't believe, I believe Abroche is like, you know, when you cross the Mediterranean.
Yeah, when you sit in an aeroplane and go to UK.
But you see, you can sit in an aeroplane and go to Togo.
Yes. That's why it's Abroche.
But so Evans, you say you are behind Manchester City.
No. Bayern Munich.
Why?
Anything that puts a dent in Pep's.
Oh wow.
You are for it.
I'm for it, yeah. Pep is too good. It's too good.
Is it a crime to be too good?
Sometimes you need the underdog, to somebody else to win it.
But Pep has not won Champions League.
He's won it twice with Barca.
No, he's not won Champions League with Manchester.
Yes, but you see, if he struggles here, it may affect them in the Premier League. Yeah. Yes. So that's how I'm calculating it. And then Manchester United is in the Premier League.
Oh,
you get it?
Right.
So he has to struggle here, get a defeat, knock them out, affects the team, and then maybe they get a wobble in the last 8 games.
Charlie, this is a lot of calculation for not liking one person. But yes, Evans, thank you and Emefa for News Night. Coming up, like they said, 3 minutes to kick off the big